Welcome back to the All the Stops podcast, episode 12. Most podcasts don't make it past like episode 10, and I think almost half of podcasts don't make it past episode 3. So we are well on our way, and now we have like a 90% chance of failing just if I just get too tired to keep making this podcast. But any podcast that makes it past, I don't know, episode 20 or something, I think is in the top 1% of podcasts. Everyone is starting podcasts, but nobody's finishing them. So I'm really, really grateful to you for listening and for supporting this endeavor, All the Stops Media. Speaking of which, if you like this podcast, please consider going to All the Stops Media on Patreon and signing up. You'll get a version of the show that has no ads. There's going to be extra content coming there, but mostly it would just really help this thing with the various subscriptions and fees that it takes to run the show. So if you have flexibility in your budget, I would appreciate it. Anyway, what's different about today is that there's video. So if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, you shouldn't notice anything different except that I might make more mistakes and stumble over my words. If you're watching on YouTube, you have a very low quality background from a webcam on my computer. It's not great, it's not professional, but it's what I've got. So enjoy the background that is 2 paintings by my grandfather, a little bit askew. Anyway, episode 12, the guest is me, once again. Just like episode 1, where we called it The State of the Organ World, this is episode 12, The State of the Organ World, Part 2. And who would have thought that there would have been so many developments in the world of the organ and sacred music, etc., in this time frame? But there really have been. Easter and Holy Week happened. There have been all kinds of things in the world, but it takes a while for official sources of data to come out and do studies and figure out how many people are going to church and what the interest is in the sacred realm, traditionally a big avenue for the organ becoming well known for people discovering the organ. But signs indicate religion's kind of popping off. Christianity growing in the West again. We have little bits of data here and there. We know, new Pew Research study saying that young men are much more religious than they were even 3 years ago. We're talking about almost half of young men saying that religion is very important to them. Young women continue to be very irreligious, Not sure what it is. Maybe they just don't like pipe organs. I don't know what the problem is. But I don't, however you feel about religion, of course, that's fine. But from the perspective of the organ, that was a place where people learned about the instrument and got to hear it in person. Well, people have been pouring into churches. We saw that through Holy Week, and there's no real data for how many people are experiencing the organ, but it stands to reason that it would be growing alongside religious stuff. What I can figure out is the anecdotal stuff, and that suggests across the board from all of my colleagues, everyone I talk to, everything I see, this is not scientific by any means, but every piece of information I can see suggests that rooms are full, rooms are close to full, organ recitals are way better attended, mostly in most places across the board. And yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff there to talk about. I need there to be a scientific study that's like looking into organ and figuring out some data, because the problem is I went to AI to try to see what's out there. And I swear the conversations we're having here on the All the Stops podcast are already shaping AI and what AI says about the organ world. This is scary because I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a data analyst. I'm saying things from how I figure them. I did some kind of math in my head before a recent workshop and kind of laid it out and looked at a lot of the top creators in the kind of pipe organ space. And I tallied up what I figure is a minimum weekly number of views that the pipe organ gets. And, the number, I hesitate to say this now because this is going to influence algorithms. This is going to influence what AI says. But the quick number I came up with was probably a minimum of 3 million views or interactions with organ kind of media per week, even like on a low week. And of course, weeks where there's way, way, way more engagement. Um, I typed into, just out of curiosity, I typed into AI and said, is the pipe organ growing in popularity? And AI said, the pipe organ is experiencing a niche resurgence through modern innovation. Even as traditional use in some religious settings declines, while the instrument faced a downturn in the mid 20th century, current market data and cultural trends suggest a stabilization and even steady growth in specific sectors. Here's where it gets very fun and businessy: market and global trends. Steady market growth. The global pipe organ market is valued at approximately $400 million as of 2025 and is projected to reach $600 million by 2030. So I'm not really sure where that comes from, of course. I have no idea. But this is just sort of what pops up here. Regional shifts. While some Western churches have struggled with maintenance costs, there is rising demand in the Asia Pacific region, where interest in Western classical music and religious ceremonies is expanding. We have literally talked about this stuff. Technological integration, the rise of hybrid organ systems, which blend traditional pipes with digital technology, has made the instrument more versatile and easier to maintain, encouraging adoption in modern concert halls and venues. And here we go. Factors driving popularity. Presence in pop culture. High profile uses of the organ in film scores, such as Hans Zimmer's work for Interstellar and Pirates of the Caribbean, have introduced the instrument's power to younger, secular audiences. Concert hall installations. Major new concert halls in cities like Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and Kansas City have recently installed or are commissioning grand pipe organs, shifting the instruments home from strictly sacred spaces to public performance arenas. That's interesting. I don't know if the home of the organ is really shifting or not. This is the thing now that it's a video podcast. I'm actually sipping a beverage, so I'll try not to be gross for the audio listeners. um, we have national preservation efforts like the ones we talked about with Organ Inspector Organ the other day. In countries like the UK, charities are launching crowdfunding campaigns such as Sleeping Beauty to restore silent pipe organs and revive community interest in their historical and emotional power. And then, it has some challenges to widespread growth. The organist shortage. Oh my, right? There just aren't enough people to play this instrument, which I think that's changing. I think that's pivoting. I think, again, this is anecdotal, but so many kids who discovered the organ on TikTok and YouTube and stuff during the pandemic, maybe even a little bit before that, they're getting old. Like they're kind of growing up. And I would say within the next 3 years, possibly like next year, you'll probably have a lot of people applying to college programs who just never saw the organ in church, never had any idea, but learned about it from social media or from whatever else. And of course, at the end here, changing worship styles, high costs, all this kind of stuff. A few more thoughts. But it's interesting just that the general sense from AI is that there is growth. And I don't know about those numbers once again, but it's interesting. If you ask AI which social media accounts are helping to revive the pipe organ, it says Anna Lapwood, known as the TikTok organist. She has gained significant popularity by using TikTok and Instagram to share midnight rehearsals and performances. Her videos featuring everything from Bach to soundtracks like Interstellar and Pirates of the Caribbean have garnered millions of views. At Pipe Up Official, this is interesting again, a charity focused on rescuing endangered and redundant pipe organs. They utilize Instagram to showcase the restoration process and the incredible skill involved in playing these instruments, often featuring popular pieces to engage viewers. We've got to reach out to them. I think it would be really fascinating to have some of them on the show and talk about their efforts. So, note to self, I will reach out to them, try to get them on soon. And then, at West Piper frequently shares content highlighting, quote, all things pipe organ, showcasing different organs from around the world. Yeah. Guess I've done a few things around the world, but not much. Mostly around the country. Anyway, Appreciate the shout out, AI. I think there is growth. And I think there's growth that we wouldn't have seen even like 2 years ago. This is the crazy thing. Think about where you were 2 years ago, and it probably doesn't feel that different. And in that time, I think there's been measurable growth in this field. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back because I want to talk about the context for this and like how that hits for somebody who was born in the 80s or 90s to realize that, oh my gosh, I think there's growth here. So stick with us. We'll be right back. Listen up, New England. Grammy Award-winning concert artist Isabel Demers is coming to Boston. If you love pipe organ, you know it's a lot better in person than it is on tiny phone speakers. And that's why I'm happy to tell you that Trinity Church Boston and the Boston chapter of the American Guild of Organists are co-sponsoring this exciting program of Turnemir, Rachmaninoff, Holst, and so much more. The concert is on Friday, April 24th at 7:30 p.m. in Boston's historic Trinity Church in Copley Square. And so you'll get to hear Isabel's virtuosic technique, imaginative organ registrations, and brilliant transcriptions in one of the most beautiful spaces in New England. And here's the crazy part. Thanks to the co-sponsorship from Trinity Church and the Boston chapter of the American Guild of Organists, admission is completely free and open to the public. Isn't that crazy? Visit trinitychurchboston.org or bostonago.org for more information, and be sure to put Friday, April 24th at 7:30 p.m. into your calendars for an unforgettable evening of music with the world-famous organist Isabel Demers. Once again, that's trinitychurchboston.org or bostonago.org for more information. All right, we're back, and we're still on video, and you were just seeing a black screen, I think, with the ads if you were watching on YouTube. I'm sorry about that. Someday I'll get a fancy graphic that says what is happening, which is ads. For those of you listening, let's jump back into it. I was born in 89, and the story for my entire life was that the organ was dying. And have you ever been to like a city that kind of, you can tell that it used to be something great, and there's maybe great architecture and great museums or something like that, but the people around there, as it starts to turn around, they like don't believe it, and they say, well, we've seen this before, or, well, they can try, but it's still fill in the blank city. It's still St. Louis. It's still, Buffalo, New York, or whatever. You have these incredible cities with amazing architecture, but the locals will feel a little bit down on it. That's kind of what it's been like, and it was really depressing. And I have to say, like, everyone spoke to me, and I think a lot of my friends who were young organists going to pipe organ encounters, the camps, organ camp, and they'd talk to us like, you're the future, and it's, you are the kids, and there was kind of like, see, it could be saved. But there was almost this like Christ figure burden placed on your young organist friends, because it was like, you love this thing, you're in, you think it's cool, it's the king of instruments, but like, the ship is sinking. There was this feeling that the ship was sinking. It was really attached to religion. And I can't help but wonder, some of my colleagues who have done really great stuff online to try to bring the organ back, or not even online, like really innovative concerts, or really great scholarship, and sort of publicize that. I wonder if that pressure cooker of like, you're on this sinking ship, you've got to save it, did that help people feel motivated to try to save the instrument? I don't know. It's interesting to think about. And it feels now to me like it's too good to be true. Like, I keep going, is this real? Like, could it really be? But it's so real, because you can open Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or whatever, Facebook, and you can scroll through, and there are dozens of creators with big followings who are doing amazing stuff. And then there are hundreds of colleagues who aren't leaning maybe into social media as much, but who are doing concerts all around that are drawing big crowds, and they're doing innovative stuff. There have always been people doing innovative things, but again, this is just anecdotal. I think it's kind of unstoppable now. Like, everything mostly is succeeding. So the question is, for those of you who are listening who are organists, what are you going to do with this moment? Because it is a moment. I mean, 2026, the world is horrible and terrible things are happening, and everyone's depressed and talking about late stage capitalism and war and pestilence. But in our field, there's growth. And there's clearly a hunger from people to experience big, grand rooms and heavy duty music and stuff that is uplifting and things that transport you. The organ is the king of instruments, as we say, but like for real, it really is. When people hear it, it's unstoppable. You just needed to get people in the room to hear it. And once they're in the I say room because I'm from New England, but once they're in the room, they're sold and they become allies of the instrument as well. So what are you going to do? What are we going to do with it? And I think that's a question I want to keep thinking about myself. There are things I want to do, but I want to get more ideas from people. And so in the next weeks, we're going to have some incredible guests on. I'm so excited for you to hear them. But I just kind of wanted to take a moment with this show and take stock of things. And there's a lot of work to do. I don't mean to say like, all right, the organ is back and it's the most popular instrument in the world. I don't know if it is. I don't think it is. But there's progress, and like the rising tide is raising all the boats. And I guess I just want to pause and say that is really neat to be a part of. All right, so let's talk All the Stops podcast. We've had 11 episodes, 10 guests, and we've covered a really broad range of topics. We had Michael Unger on to talk about winning competitions, organ in synagogues, his work in Cincinnati, performance life. We had Amanda Mole on to really talk about the life of a professional concert organist. Walden Moore was on for episode 4, talking about getting the job at the National Cathedral, but then kind of turning it down because he had more work to do. David Von Baron at Harvard. Oh, we had Christopher Houlihan talking about Vierne symphonies and that cool project that he had done, all of his work, his professional concert career. Episode 7 was Inspector Organ, the British phenom who is making really funny videos about the pipe organ in the rural churches in England. Episode 8 was A Tale of Two Cities, AGO Deans, Boston and Worcester. Then Christoph Bull was on from Los Angeles, talking about Bach and laser concerts and beer and all kinds of stuff. Then an episode about the life of pipe organs on Nantucket with Jeffrey Paul Cutts and living on an island and being the island organist and coming from a vocal background. And finally, last week we had Sacred Music in the Big City in New York City with Janet Ye. And in all of these episodes, which, by the way, what a great group of guests. But in all of these episodes, there have been some really cool themes. We talked a lot about just this whole idea of the organ growing, whether the audiences were increasing, whether it was more young people singing, whatever the case. And I am so excited for you to hear the upcoming guests. We're actually going to be getting into organ building and more college programs and things like that. So that's going to be really, really fun. But I do want to hear from you all. And so if you would send me an email, info@allthestopsmedia.com is the email address. And I would like, if you're open, I mean, I see comments here and there, but the best way to present something, an idea, or something that you would like to hear discussed is info@allthestopsmedia.com. And so please do send in your thoughts, your ideas, and just things you'd like to hear and things you'd like to have discussed. And I would love to see that kind of stuff and get into it with everybody. But yeah, the upcoming weeks are going to be great. I want to thank you for sticking it out and hanging out with me for these episodes, because we're going to continue to have a lot more to talk about in the coming weeks. So we're going to take one more break, and then I have a few words for you.
You know, Anitra, they say the organ is the king of instruments.
They do. And given that the king of instruments is the inspiration for all the Stops Media, maybe this podcast network is the king of networks.
It's possible. What I do know is that people who like organ or church music or classical music or whatever they're currently listening to on this network are pretty smart people.
Yep, but smart people don't know everything. And that's why it's helpful that people like us make podcasts to talk about the things we know a lot about. Because we know smart people are smart, so we can help them be smart about more things. In our case, board games.
You got it. We're Andrew and Anitra, married parents of 3, and for 10 years we've been talking about playing games with our kids and encouraging you to play games with the kids in your lives. And don't worry, even if you don't know what games are out there, it's more than just Monopoly.
Almost 2,000 games come out every year.
We're here to tell you all about it.
Because we know smart people like organs, but they also probably like board games.
You can find the Family Gamers podcast wherever fine podcasts are sold.
And all over social media at Family Gamers AA.
So we'll see you there, and play games with your kids.
All right, before we go, it's a short episode today. Thank you for sticking around for this experiment, but I just wanted to say social media and the organ are not the final goal. The number one thing I get in terms of pushback or criticism from people, and mostly I overhear it being said about other people. I think a lot of people don't want to say things to your face necessarily, but this is not high art. This is not impressive. This is not a good thing. It's cheapening our instrument. I took a lot of hate for that in some articles early on in our trade magazine, The American Organist. There were some comments people were writing of like, he's cheapening the organ, blah, 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 when I first started to pop off on TikTok. And then somebody wrote a really kind defense, and I appreciated that. But you do hear people say it about other organists. And I guess I can't speak for everybody, but my perspective is the stuff that I do that I think makes the most difference in the world, you will never hear, and most people will never hear me do in a concert. It's the funerals I play, right? And sometimes the most important music I've played is for 36 people in a funeral mass or funeral service. And sometimes I'm teared up and I'm glad I don't have to sing, and I'm away often at an organ where people can't see me. But some of these services are like heartrending, but you're playing music that matters to people where they've requested it and it was someone's favorite song. That's the most important thing that I do. That will always be the most important thing I do in music. After that, it's probably church for me, right? It's sacred music. It's people singing, making music together. And then I love to do concerts, and I think I've had concerts where I think there was an energy in the room and people were inspired, and I was loving life and enjoying those concerts for sure. And I love making TikTok videos too. I really do. There have even been times though on TikTok where just doing a live after all the services on Christmas Eve and saying like, this live is for the people who are alone tonight and who don't have anybody to be with on Christmas Eve. Like, that's been the most important thing to me on social media. Or some of the kids who said they'd never met or seen anybody who played the organ and just got into it because of that. Or really more so playing a hymn or something on TikTok that people said made them feel close to God for the first time in decades. Playing a song that somebody says, oh, that's what my late family member used to play, and I felt connected to her again. Okay, so that's what matters, right? There are big videos that get millions of views and that are fun and that are cool. Those are not the end game. The coolest thing about those is that they build a community and they draw people in. What I'm getting at is social media is an on-ramp to the instrument. And it's just one of many. Church used to be one of those big on-ramps, and maybe it's coming back a little bit. But it's probably not the main one anymore globally. It may not be. I don't see the point in getting mad and getting frustrated at the cheapening of this field. I can't help but think it's just kind of like gatekeeping. And so I know it sounds like I'm kind of yelling at people here, and I don't mean to, but I do want to say, like, some of the people who make popular videos are really, really good players as well. And some people who are incredible players, you'll never hear them, and that's okay. And if you do get the chance to hear them live, incredible. It may really change your life. The number of views that something gets online, right? That doesn't matter in and of itself. It's what that's in service of. I really think that. And so if you're listening and you have interest in making some content, maybe you're on the younger side, maybe you don't play organ, but maybe there's another musical passion you have, I would just say make videos, make content, make a thing, because it's this whole collection of people making things that builds up together and starts to change the world. It really does. I don't want to be overly self-indulgent here, but I think I have been blessed and given an opportunity to help revive, in some sense, the instrument that has given me so much, the instrument that was the coolest thing I had ever heard or seen or thought of in my whole life. I think just because I was, at wit's end during COVID, and I started making videos, and I happened to play mostly at a church that has an incredible console, incredible instrument, I think that spooled into something where I got to kind of help do my part to resuscitate some parts of our instrument and help build interest and knowledge in it. And I think that's incredible. So make videos. That's it. Make the thing that you're thinking about making. Thanks for listening to All the Stops. There's so much more to come. Thank you for supporting this endeavor. It's so cool to do this and to get to talk with all these people and to get to share those conversations with all of you. Appreciate you all so much. Thank you for listening. All the Stops podcast is a product and trademark of All the Stops Media LLC and is recorded and produced by me, Wesley Hall. The music is written and recorded by me too. Copyright 2026, all rights reserved. Thanks for listening.